Boo. Spoiler warning for episode 11 of Critical Role. I'm about to spoil it in 3, 2, 1. In this episode, we're going to get massive revelations about Chetney's character. We're finally going to meet the anger, and the party is going to choose their group name. Let's begin our animated recap. If you're a fan of these animated recaps, please click like on the video. And if you have your own opinions, your own review of this episode of Critical Role, leave a comment downstairs. I would love to hear what you think. This episode picks up right from last week's Nail Biter, where the party had just ascended this secret staircase in the commissioner's office, and down there they had found Ira's secret workshop. Ira is this creature with long arms and spindly fingers and large pointed ears and black eyes and a crooked smile like a carved pumpkin. Absolutely terrifying. Ira says, "So, what brings you all to my temporary workshop?" And Chetney says, "We're looking for a friend, Gurge." Chetney rolls perception and notices like a fist-sized crystal in the room, and the machine that was in the corner is still kind of sparking energy every now and then. He sees Gurge across the other side of the room in a cage, watching from the shadows. Imogen asks, what do you intend to do with him? And Ira says, "Nothing. He's been very helpful. He carries a very particular curse, which my employer is very keen to experiment with." Imogen goes on to ask, "Hey, your employer, are you talking about Volley, the person upstairs, the commissioner?" And Ira says, No, my employer is not Volley. Volley is just my overseer. If you want Gurge, you're going to have to take it up with Armand. And then Chetney just asks directly, "Are you the Nightmare King?" And Ira says, "In some spaces, yes." Chetney here does something pretty odd, a bit of foreshadowing. He takes off his shirt so he's bare-chested. You can just see his sinewy old man gnome strength there, posturing for a fight, which is pretty interesting. Imogen casts Detect Thoughts and tries to peer into Ira's mind, but she meets this piercing static and hears a voice saying, no peeking. And I presume this means that Ira succeeded on the save to resist this spell, probably. And here, finally fed up with this weird, hostile social interaction, Ira, the Nightmare King, grabs that blue orb that is on the table and smashes it on the ground. And this familiar wave of arcane energy explodes out from the explosion. And then the table starts to ambulate and the chairs start moving around. And suddenly, baby, we've got combat with furniture and the Nightmare King. Let's go. And side note, this of course is 100% evidence that this Nightmare King, this laboratory, is totally responsible for that initial combat in the very first episode against those brooms and swords and carpets and stuff. Taking the mickey over on Discord, Rain even pointed out that, hey, maybe Ira could be, like the Nightmare King, could be a warlock patron in the future, because you're an IKEA warlock. You're making all of this furniture assemble itself and attack. So it's the party versus the Nightmare King. 2 tables and 2 chairs. I just want to say immediately off the bat, the Nightmare King is very tough, outputs a lot of damage. He opens up his turn on combat by casting lightning at the party and deals 22 damage to a bunch of them. I'll remind you, I think they're only like level 4. 22 damage is a lot. This boss fight is going to last a while. It's going to take us all the way up to the break, and I am not going to do a play-by-play because that's no fun. But I will cover my favourite moments and the bits that highlighted player abilities that we haven't seen before. In the first round, Dorian has a great idea and asks Chetney, "Hey Chetney, can Gurge fight?" And Chetney says, "Yes!" So Dorian casts Shatter, which is a great 2nd level spell, on the lock that is keeping Gurge kind of like manacled up, right? And this spell does a lot more damage to inanimate objects, inanimate non-magical objects. So it wouldn't do extra damage on like the magical table and stuff. So this is going to help free Gurge so he can join the fight. But here's a massive reveal, okay? This is reveal number 1. There's going to be a second one coming up. Chetney, with his shirt off, just grabs a chisel and drags it across his chest, drawing out some blood. And he does an attack. Like, this is part of his attack. That sounds a little bit like a blood hunter, doesn't it? Question mark, question mark, question mark. In the second round, Ira says, "Let's take the weights off." And this is something like from Dragon Ball Z, right? So he says, let's take the weights off, and he bends shadows around him. Everybody has to make a wisdom saving throw, and it's going to frighten pretty much half the party. Everyone except Aurum, Dorian, Fern, and Lordna. Lordna, throughout the whole fight, is really impressed with how creepy the Nightmare King is, and everyone's calling her the Nightmare Queen. She even uses her like aspect of dread where she transforms into her scary form. She is describing it in a similar way to the way that the Nightmare King has been described, with like the pumpkin carved mouth and all that kind of stuff. When Aurum kills the last of the furniture in the fight, Imogen says, and this is a great line, she says, we killed all the furniture, y'all. Now we've only got the Nightmare King left. And you've only got the Nightmare King left? Yeah, it's terrifying. Gurge, on his turn, here's his big reveal. He's a were creature, and he transforms into a were creature and does his slashing attacks. We all knew that. That's fair enough. Now here, in the second round, this is where Chetney gives his big reveal. He says to the Nightmare King, "You think Gurge has got a gift? Well, wait until you get a look at me." And he goes Macho Man Randy Savage on him. He transforms into a were creature, hair spouting out of his arms, his ears. He gets a little bit bulkier, a little bit bigger, and he starts to slashing. Oh my goodness. Now, this means that Travis's character, Chetney, has never been a rogue. Travis has been lying to the cast, been lying to us. Matt has been lying to us. The little card that says Chetney that appears in the bottom of the screen sometimes and said level 4 rogue, that's been lying to us. Chetney is an Order of the Lycan Blood Hunter. This is a Matt Mercer Critical Role homebrew class. I don't know what to say. We've been duped. Well, some of us have been duped. I know a lot of you have already suspected that he was going to be a werewolf, but for some reason, I just didn't think that would happen. I thought it was too on the nose. In the third round, the Nightmare King has a really cool character moment where he sniffs the air, and by her scent alone can tell that Fern the Fawn is a Calloway. Fern Calloway is her name, but we will learn more about that in a little bit. On the same turn, the Nightmare King transforms via the polymorph spell, transforms fresh cut grass into a turtle, which is very fun. And for the rest of the fight, fresh cut grass is going to be a turtle. There's a terrifying moment where, with a legendary action, directly before Dorian's turn, the Nightmare King drops him to 0 points and makes him unconscious. But at the exact start of Dorian's turn, he rolls his death save, and he rolls a natural 20, which means that he comes back up at 1 hit point because he made a critical success, and he gets to have his turn. That's so good. That's so cool, right? That doesn't happen just once in this fight. That's going to happen twice, because a little bit later, the exact same thing happens to Aurum. He gets dropped, obliterated. He's terrified. His turn is up directly next, and on his death save, he rolls a natural 20. These kids, they're so lucky. And when Aurum comes back from being unconscious, he's laying on the ground, he attacks Ira from the ground, and they were talking about hitting him in the taint because he's, so low, but he's a fey creature, so Encounter Kevin said, right in the faint. The Nightmare King is still outputting a lot of damage in this fight, and he's not looking necessarily messed up, but he is definitely outnumbered. Now, Chetney uses this as an opportunity to inspect the mysterious machine in the corner of the room. This is the machine that the Nightmare King had used to charge up one of those blue stones earlier. Now, Matt, with the high roll, reveals that this machine is like a power reactor, and it's used for kind of infusing items with magical energy. So it can use them to make kind of a time bomb / grenade, something that's just going to explode with magical energy, but could also be used to put specific magical effects into an item to kind of obfuscate what those effects are. So that would be like the animate object spell that he got earlier. Now, Travis is clearly hoping, is this machine a weapon that I could point at the Nightmare King? But no, it's not. But he's in trouble here because he's frightened, which means he can't move any closer to this enemy, to this boss. So instead, he just throws a chisel at the Nightmare King and hits him in the back. It's lodged in there. And here we are, round 4. This is where the Nightmare King makes his escape. The party are terrified as he starts to cast this green, crackling spell. They think, oh, is this going to be a blast that's going to kill us all? Or is it going to be a teleportation spell that he gets away? But he drops the spell right at the last minute and turns to Fern and kind of winks and says, you've proved just as resourceful as I would have hoped. And as much as I hate to leave work unfinished, well, we had some fun here, we made some progress. And he reaches behind him and grabs like a chest, a small strongbox, and says, well, at least I've been paid half. I have other ventures to get to. Farewell. And he dimension doors away. And that is the end of the fight. And my review of this fight, it was good. I like any fight that goes for 3 rounds and then stops, because that's all I have the attention span for. I loved all the mechanics. I loved all the spells. I loved how much damage this creature was outputting. I will say that the party did forget to roll any concentration checks for the polymorph on fresh cut grass, because every time the Nightmare King was getting hit, he probably should have been making a concentration save. But, you know, you forget stuff in the moment all the time. And Fern struggled a little bit with like, oh, does a bonus action, do I use that to make my monkey Mister throw his fire seed, or do I use my bonus action to make my flaming sphere ram into the opponent? And she struggled sometimes to juggle those two. But hey, it has been 3 episodes since we had a combat, so fair enough that they're a little bit rusty. That's fine. After the fight, Ashton investigates that machine, and it is faintly humming like it has been activated by the Nightmare King, and he is watching it intensely, terrified that it is going to, escalate and explode. Chetney starts looking for a hidden passage out of the workshop and finds a secret kind of trigger or something behind a sconce and manages to open the exit back up to the office. Aurum grabs a bunch of papers and stuff, and then somebody asks Gerge, hey, there's a creature in that jail cell over there, like an insectoid human. Should we let that out? And Gerge is like, do not let that out. Imogen asks Fern, he spared us for you. What's that about? And Fern says, well, I have no idea. We're famous in the Fae. The Callaway is very well known. I could contact my Nana about it. At this point, the contraption in the corner of the room that Ashton is watching starts to crackle and arc. That blue energy, the hum, it starts to whir like a microwave, but the plate has kind of tilted. You know what I mean? When the microwave plate kind of gets off kilter. What's up with that? What are you doing, microwave? Get it together. Ashton ushers everybody out of the workshop. We gotta go. They run past the desk clerk, the front desk person, the receptionist that they saw earlier, and the clerk is saying, oh, what's going on? Where are you going? The party says, ghosts! Watch out, there are ghosts! And Chetney, in his werewolf form, intimidates the clerk because he's a scary wereboy. And the party runs outside. They run past all of these guards, right? Because something's going to happen here. And then there's this massive flash. This purple energy radiates from the building, and then there's just silence. We start to hear pebbles, kind of like hail raining from the sky. Small at first, and then boom! Huge chunks of stone from the tower are raining down, and the party is fleeing from the scene. Dory and Chetney have to make dex saving throws. Chetney rolls a crit. Good job, Chetney. Well done. Dorian gets knocked unconscious because he was on 1 hit point and he was carrying fresh cut grass as a turtle. He falls on fresh cut grass and it crushes him, I guess, because fresh cut grass takes 1 point of damage as well, and he transforms back into his bot form and is able to cast Cure Wounds on Dorian. Dorian says, you're not a turtle anymore. And fresh cut grass says, you're not dead anymore. At this point, the party takes their break. They take a break, we take a break. Did you know that over on my Discord, we watch this live together? It's matthewperkins.net/Discord. And the reason I want you to come by and watch it live with us is because when you watch these episodes on Twitch, the Twitch chat just goes so fast. I can't keep up with it. I'm sure you can't either. But over on my Discord, there's only like 20 of us, 30 of us watching it at the same time. So you can share your memes and we can make each other laugh, and you can actually keep up with it. You can ask questions. Honestly, it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy it every week, and I would love to see you there. matthewperkins.net/Twitch. Also like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment. Let's begin the recap now. What's about to ensue is a series of conversations in different locations, okay? And we're going to get a lot of moments here. They begin by heading with Gurge to the Weary Way Tavern. Here, we learn all about Chetney's true origins, and also how it relates to Gurge, how Gurge relates to lycanthropy, dog abilities, dog skills. We're going to learn this whole situation. So here we go. Chetney says, I might have been slightly subversive originally. Gurge and I sort of know each other. He's not a master craftsman, and he's not going to give me work. I'm a lichen, and he's a lichen. Gurge says, I used to run with a group called the Claret Orders, a group of fringe monster hunters. I used to run with them to make money until I contracted this disease. I was solitary until I heard of intelligent werebeasts in Marquette called the Gorgini. Hey, I'm pretty confident that I'm not pronouncing that word correctly at all. So they're a bunch of warriors who use hemiocraft, which is a blood-based arcana, and they've learned to harness this curse. So I, Gurge, sought them out, and it worked out fine until I had a falling out with the leadership. And it was good for a while being alone until Chetney showed up a week ago and asked for help taming his own beast, and I had to return to the city. I wanted to palm him off on my only friend, Ajit Dayal, in the Dayal Hall. Chetney wants to find this order of the lichens that helps train Gurge, helps train his own beast. But his only link, his only lead, is to go and ask this person at the Dayal Hall. Fern asks Gurge about the Nightmare King and the kind of activities that he had Gurge performing. So what would happen is he wanted to spread Gurge's curse throughout the city, and he brought a few people in for Gurge to bite. He bit 3 people, and this is what Gurge says about them. I don't know who I bit, but they were all well armed and well dressed. They didn't look like wardens, more like brigands. Armand, who is the big boss, right? Armand was fancy with rings and necklaces. He looked mostly human, and he was wearing a fine, fancy, shiny pair of pants, a high collar coat with blues and golds, and a nice kept goatee with short hair in a wave. Ira, the Nightmare King, would leave and come back, but sometimes he smelled strange. You know, something that I've never smelt before. Crisper, sweeter. Now, as a point of reference, Fern lets Gurge smell her to detect whether it was the Feywild he was smelling. And it was. He was detecting Feywild on Ira. So that either speaks to his, composition, his nature as a Fey creature, or it speaks to the idea that maybe he was travelling back and forth from the Feywild. Laudner has the bright idea to inspect the papers that they scooped up from the workshop, because in the workshop they grabbed these because they had all kinds of arcane scribblings and stuff on them. But oh my goodness, nothing's as it seems, because these papers are blank. You've grabbed a bunch of blank papers, but they definitely had symbols on them before. They try holding them up to the light. They try tearing the corner of them. They don't know what's up with these mysterious papers. I'm presuming there's got to be a way to get the words to come back, but they don't work it out this episode. And now the party takes a long rest, and we go to visit Lord Esteros. Big reveal when talking to Lord Esteros. He immediately recognizes the description that they gave of Armand. And do you know who it is? Tick tock, take a guess. You only have 3 seconds before I give the answer. It's Armand Treshy, the head person of the Treshy Guild. Now, this is the same guild that a few episodes ago, they own the construction company that was repairing the wall that had the mimic there. This is the same guild that is suspected to have members on the Quorum Council, which runs the town. Esteros says, I've had quarrels with Armand for some time. We've had quarrels politically. And I like the idea of seeking a way to undermine his influence in this city. And what better place than at an event where all the other movers and shakers of the wilds will be present. And he is suggesting that they expose this character, this Armand Treshy, at the ball that is happening in 5 days. The party suspects that Armand's plan with this whole thing is to sow discord, sow chaos, because Ira, the Nightmare King, mentioned chaos. Because if he gets enough chaos, right, maybe the Corsairs are causing too much trouble, and maybe, there are monsters, there's like a mysterious wall in the street. Oh no, the Shade Creepers are doing crazy stuff. There's werewolves in the streets as well. If there's chaos, then what about that poster that they picked up a few episodes ago that said, hey, what about the Paragon's Call? Can they come in and can you give them jurisdiction to, enforce military law in Drusar? I believe, as the party does, that this is what Armand Treshy's plan is, to have this military force come in. I don't know to what purpose, but I can see this being a milestone along his path. Because that's what evil people do. We get movement on a few other plot lines as well, because Estros gives the letter of recommendation to Laudna and Imogen so that they can get into the Starlight Conservatory, which was the building, the library that they were trying to get into in the very first scene of the very first moment of this campaign. We also get movement on Orum's plan to speak to the Anger, because he is the bodyguard that was protecting the Loomis twins for House Loomis. And Estros says, you could go meet them now, it is an appropriate time, but you are all covered in blood and guts and stuff. You should go to this very fancy spa first. And the spa is called the Diamond Horizon Spa. So with this whole spa trip, there is nothing pertinent that happens in the story. They have some fun shenanigans. We all laugh. Those Critical Role players, they're always up to no good. On the way, Chetney even buys some more chisels because he threw them at Ira. I don't know. It's weird seeing Travis do a solo shopping scene. Travis, why would you do that to yourself? I don't know. Everything he does now, I just feel like he's trolling us. So after being cleaned up at the spa, the party go to the Loomis estate, where the matriarch shows them to Ashard Brescio, the Anger. Orum says to the Anger, Ashard Brescio, my name is Orum of the Ereshari, and Jarrett Howes tells me that you and I have faced a very similar enemy. I have served for years under the voice of the Tempest, and her dear friends in Whitestone heard what happened to you. The Anger, who is this dwarf in his early 50s looking, he's got a bald head and a goatee, and he's got a rich black skin, rugged and handsome. He says, of course, I met Jarrett a long time ago. We were both looking to make our fortunes. We began as ragtag sellswords before he moved on to better fortunes in Teldore. I stayed here and made a name, but that was a long time ago. To cut to the chase, I was hired to keep House Lumos safe, and I have for some time, until recently I failed. The Loomis twins were named Belan and Zahar. We were attacked while visiting the Heartmoor deep in the wilds. We were meeting a family friend, Mistani. Now, this friend is someone that we often visited to share studies because the twins were scholars. Now, there were 3 attackers in dark armor with cloth over their face, and they were all extremely skilled and fast. Their weapons were envenomed, and I nearly fell to the toxin, but I could not stop them. Both the twins were killed by the venom. When I cut through the killers, their bodies melted into dark grey liquid, a sludge. Astani might know more about the attack. They weren't present for the attack, but they were there for the aftermath. Heartmoor is a few days away on foot. The Anger asks, what are you looking for, Orum? And Orum says, answers. Justice. Here's my prediction about the creatures, this threat that Orum and the Anger are facing, right? Because the Anger made a point during this speech at some point to say, it was amazing how skilled they were, and they were all equally skilled, and like, how could you train someone to be that skilled, etc., etc., etc. I think that these are creatures under the influence of a spell called Simulacrum. This is where you make a copy of a creature, and when it dies, it melts into snow. So I think there is one skilled fighter that has cloned himself with the Simulacrum spell multiple times, because the Anger couldn't tell the gender of these creatures, couldn't see their faces, couldn't differentiate between them in any other proper way. I think we're facing one fighter who is being cloned via Simulacrum. So the Anger and Orum kind of clasp hands like that Predator meme. And then the party's going to go speak to JH. Because Ashton has been pretty vocal about wanting to take on this task that JH has laid out before them. But when they get to JH's manor at Hexham Manor, she's not there, okay? Ashton talks to the butler for a bit. The doorman mocks him in a very fun way. But then, when they have to leave, he says, well, tell them the new nobodies were here looking for her. because the nobodies were Ashton's previous group that kind of bungled the theft into JH's mansion. And the party has a moment going like, oh, the new nobodies, you reckon? Oh, how does that fit? Do we like that? Should we try it on the new nobodies? So it seems like their party name is going to be the new nobodies, which would be fine. Like, yeah, it's fine, because some people might get frustrated that, hey, Ashton has unilaterally named the party based on his old party. Isn't that kind of selfish? Shouldn't this be more democratic? But people might forget that in campaign 2, the Mighty Nine, that name was based on the fact that they kept on rolling nines that session, and they were making fun of Caleb's accent. They were making fun of Liam's German accent, Mighty Nine. So this is no different to that. One person names the Mighty Nine, one person names, the new nobodies. But there's more to this episode, because now the party is going to take that letter of recommendation that they got from Lord Estros, and they're going to go get access into that library that Imogen's been wanting to get in for the whole time to work out the source of her magical powers. They go there, they make a lot of rude jokes about the lady that's manning the front desk, jokes that would get me demonetized if I were to say them. It would break my own community guidelines to make the jokes that the Critical Role make in this segment. But the letter only allows access for Imogen to get in there. So she goes into the library and starts looking. Hey, can I have books about dreams, books about psychic powers, books about all this kind of energy stuff, books about particularly red storms in dreams. And she gets to roll her investigation check. She has advantage because she has a clerk helping her. And this is silly. She rolled 2 5s, right? She rolled 2 5s, pretty low roll. But hey, she still manages to get the crucial information. Of course you do, right? I would do the same. When looking for information, particularly about red storms appearing in dreams, she finds this study spearheaded by someone named Professor Khadija Samal. And this person, in their study, they found that some individuals across the whole world have been having recurring dreams about a red storm. Now, references to these storms in dreams, often they occur near the celestial solstice, which is a 30-year cycle. Now, theories worry that these psychic individuals are being touched by otherworldly beings, maybe from the far realm, maybe from some other, spooky doopy place, okay? But in this book, Imogen finds a list of names that accompanies the study. Oh, and these names, they're listed as either subjects or contributors. There's one name that catches her attention, Lilia Timmelt. That's her mother's name. Imogen's mother's name is in this book. There are other pages in this study, but they have all been ripped out from the binding. And that's where the episode ends. What a ride. Please like this video. Please leave your comment. And if you want to watch it live with me next week or the week after or something, hey, MatthewPerkins.net/Discord. It'll be fun to see you there. All these people down here, these are my patrons. Thank you very much, patrons. I really appreciate your support. I love you like in a romantic way. You're super cool and you look great today. Check out this video up here. Bye-bye.